Hello friends, welcome to iQUANTA. This is the video solution for CAT level RC set 11. Those who have not read the passage, they can pause the screen here and read the passage, and then you have to pause the screen here again and complete the passage. Now that you have read the passage, we can start talking about it. The passage, there are actually many kinds of discrimination out there in the world, but the passage is basically focused on two kinds of those discrimination. One is caste based discrimination and the other is race based discrimination. So, we discriminate in the name of race, religion, caste and what not, but here two kinds of discrimination have been in a way compared, and why they have been compared, why the author is discussing this. So, he is discussing this in the backdrop of United Nations conference which is going to happen in India, and the subject, the main agenda of the conference is racial and related discriminations worldwide. So, this is going to be the agenda of this conference, I mean a main highlight of this conference. But the author is not happy with India's stance on this, because India somehow is unwilling to discuss the idea of caste based discrimination on this kind of platform. Though India is okay with discussing racial discrimination, and India is obviously against this, but India does not want others to talk about the caste based discrimination, because caste, if a caste is our very own and not at all as bad as you think. So, this is India's official stance on this, that caste is something that we have invented, and only we have the right to discuss this caste, and on internal deliberation level India is okay to discuss issues related to caste, but on international forum India is not willing to discuss this thing as a discriminatory factor. And the author is not happy with this. Author wants India to discuss this explicitly and openly and boldly even on this kind of platform. So, he expresses his views here, and he compares, according to him, just as racism was uniquely institutionalized in South Africa as a caste discrimination, and this caste discrimination has been in our society. So, racism was as uniquely institutionalized in South Africa as caste discrimination has been in our society. So, according to the author, both are same. So, if we can discuss racism, why can't we discuss casteism? Let us discuss casteism as well. This is author's point. Now, here in this paragraph, he talks about, he attacks this technicality, like in the name of technical hindrances, India says that we cannot discuss caste based discrimination on this kind of platform because caste is not religion. So, he attacks that point also, and he says that even if caste is different from racial discrimination, still you can discuss this on this forum, because this forum is about racial and related. So, if caste is not racial discrimination, at least it is related. So, why don't you discuss this? And then he mentions a reputed sociologist who recently argued that where race is a biological category, caste is a social category. And this sentence is actually very important, because now onwards the author is actually going to turn his focus on this point, that author is actually not happy with this reputed sociologist, because that is how you talk about people whom you do not like. Author has not mentioned him, and it is kind of he has quoted him sarcastically, and he said that recently argued that where race is a biological category, caste is a social one. Having earlier fiercely opposed the implementation of the Mandal Commission report, he said that sociologist, I mean the said sociologist, the person there, is at least to be complimented now for admitting, however tangentially, that caste discrimination is a reality, although in his view incompatible with racial discrimination. So, in his view, look at this, in his view. So, at least he has agreed that caste discrimination is a reality just like as racial discrimination, though caste discrimination is not compatible with racial discrimination according to that named sociologist, not according to the author, because the named sociologist says that caste is based on social system, and racism comes, race is a matter of biology. Now, the author is trying to prove that he actually does not agree with this view, and he doesn't agree that actually race is a matter of biology. And for that he mentions two different kind of ideologies. One is based on science, where Homo sapiens derived from originary black African female. So this is one stream of thought that says that all men have derived from just one single person. So if we all have derived from one single person, biologically our biological constituents should be same. So we cannot be discriminated based on that. So racism cannot be called a biological concept. Plus he talks about a different stream which says that all men are God's children, and if all men are God's children, God's creation, then again you cannot discriminate based on biology, and you cannot say that racism is a biological concept. So that is how he is trying to refute this argument. Plus in the last paragraph again he continues in the same vein, and he is trying to refute this argument that racism is a biological concept. And for that he quotes this Human Genome Project, and he says that from America, those findings deny genetic difference between races. So even these scientific findings deny any kind of genetic difference between races. So if there is no genetic difference between races, that means racism is not a biological concept, it is also a social concept, just like caste based discrimination. Just like casteism, racism is something which has been created by the social arrangements. And if anything, they suggest that the environmental factors impinge on gene functions, as a dialectic seems to unfold between nature and culture. And here dialectic means a rational relationship between nature and culture, and impinge is like to have an impact, to affect something. And it would thus, here again the author is trying to conclude his argument, that it would thus seem that biology, as the constitution of pigmentation, enters the picture first only as a part of that dialectic. That means he doesn't agree that biology has got any role to play in racial discrimination. Even these experiments, even these developments in the field of genes, genetics and science do not prove that there is any difference between there is any genetic difference between races. So if there is no genetic difference between races, that means racism is not a matter of biology. That is what the author is trying to prove in these two paragraphs. Now we can jump to questions. Question number 1, it says that when the author writes globalizing our social inequities, the reference is to, so this is related with the first paragraph, where India is not ready to discuss the caste based discrimination on the United Nations forum, but author wants India to take a bold step and discuss this forum explicitly. So here he says that he just wants to globalize our social inequities. That means he wants India to discuss that thing on that forum, and the reference is to what? So going beyond, and what does the author want? So author wants that India to go beyond an internal deliberation on social equities, or dealing with internal poverty through the economic benefits of globalization, or going beyond an internal delimitation of social inequity, or achieving disadvantaged people's empowerment globally. So actually see, achieving disadvantaged people's empowerment, so this thing has not actually been discussed in the passage, and the question is concerned with the first paragraph. So you will not find any mention of this, and you can also very easily delete this choice that says poverty. So poverty was also not addressed. The paragraph was not talking about these two things. Now out of A and C, which one should you choose? So it talks about delimitation. Delimitation is like marking the limit or marking the boundary, and this word is used in context of marking the land boundary especially. So when you decide that this area belongs to this region and this area belongs to this state, that is, this process is called delimitation. So, here you are actually marking the limits, the boundaries. So, going beyond the internal limits of social inequity, no. The passage was about discussion. So, deliberation is discussion. So, India was not ready to discuss this issue, though India was okay in discussing these things internally, but India was not ready to put this agenda on the board at that level. And the author says that India should be open to discuss, and deliberation is like discussion. So, going beyond an internal discussion on social inequality and accepting the challenge to discuss this agenda on an international level. So, A is the answer. This is the reference that the author wants us to go beyond an internal deliberation on social inequity. Question number 2, it says, according to the author, inverted representations as balm for the forsaken. So, is good for the forsaken occurs often as a means of keeping people oppressed, or occurs often to invert the status quo. Let us go to the passage and see where this has been written in the passage. You will find it here that inverted representations, as we know, have often been deployed in the human histories as a balm for the forsaken. So, what is he trying to say? That it is good for the forsaken, I mean deprived and underprivileged people, religion being the most persistent of such inversions. First of all, you need to understand what does the author mean by this phrase inverted representations. For that, you need to read the previous sentence, that somehow India's virtual beliefs elbow out the concrete actualities and inverted representations. So, concrete inverted representations are something opposed to concrete actualities. So, that means to present facts and data as opposed to the ground reality. So, when you represent facts and data opposed to the ground reality, the actual situation, that presentation has been called inverted presentation. And if you read the sentence, this is a sarcasm, a satire basically, that inverted representation have often been deployed in human histories as a balm for the forsaken. And by balm, you might think that it would work as something that relieves these forsaken people, but this is satire, and actually he is trying to say that through the course of history, it's been a practice to present facts and data in such a twisted way only for the benefit of a particular section of the society, or just for a limited number of people. And here actually he is trying to say that it is certainly not, twisted facts and data can never be good for forsaken, because we are not doing this for their benefit, it is being done for the benefit of selected ones. So, this thing, this inverted representation occurs often as a means of keeping people oppressed. That is the purpose of this thing. So, C is the answer. 3 says that according to the author, the sociologist who argued that race is a biological category and caste is a social one, he generally shares the same orientation as the authors on many of the central issues discussed. You certainly cannot go with this, because author and that sociologist are not aligned in their thoughts. Author doesn't agree with him in any way. And the author, the sociologist, tangentially admits to the existence of caste as a category. So, not tangentially, he has directly admitted to the existence of caste as a category, but that was not the point. The point is that he admits indirectly that both caste based prejudice and racial discrimination exist. So, when he says that caste is a matter of social society and race is a matter of biology, and when he accepts this truth, then he is actually agreeing that yes, those kind of inequalities or discriminations exist. One is society based and the other is biology based. So, at least he accepted that there is a caste based prejudice in our society. So, this is the answer. And C says that this sociologist admits the incompatibility between the people of different race and caste, this is irrelevant. You will not find any kind of any idea like this. Now question number 4, an important message in the passage, if one accepts a dialect between nature and culture, is that the results of human genome project reinforces racial differences. So no, it does not reinforce racial difference. It says that we cannot discriminate between races based on genetics. This was the finding of, this was the result of human genome project. So we can eliminate this, and race is at least partially a social construct, and D says caste is at least partially a social construct. So one of these two has to be true. Which one will you choose? Let's talk about C first. It says that discrimination is at least partially a social construct. So discrimination was not the matter in hand in those paragraphs. According to the author, discrimination is there, and discrimination is certainly a social construct. There is no question about that. Now he is trying to prove that even the racial discrimination is not related with the biology, it is related to the social construct. So that is very important, and you will see this here, that when this sociologist calls one kind of discrimination biological and the other kind of discrimination to be social, here the author counters this argument in both these paragraphs, and he is trying to prove that actually even this racial discrimination is not biological, it is social, partially or completely. So you can certainly say that here an important message in the passage, if you accept a dialectic between nature and culture. So this dialectic is like the rational relationship between nature and culture. So that was discussed in the last part, and this discussion is happening just because the author is trying to prove that even this race is at least partially a social construct. So don't go with D, because caste is a social construct. This is something at which the author and that sociologist, they both will agree. But race is also a social construct. This is something with which that great sociologist will not agree, and author is actually trying to counter his argument, and he is trying to prove this, and he has actually proved this by quoting these kind of relationship between nature and culture. He also quoted genome project and other things. The answer is B. So that's all for now. We'll see you again with the next with another passage. Thank you.